Here is something that will sound impossible until you sit with it for a moment. The person who walks every single day, faithfully, in all weather, can end up in worse shape than the person who barely walks at all. I know how that sounds. For decades, we have been told that walking is the one safe, simple, foolproof thing, that you cannot possibly get it wrong. And that belief, that comfortable certainty, is exactly the problem. Because after 60, walking is no longer just a matter of how far or how often. It becomes a matter of how. And the people who get the how wrong are not getting a smaller benefit. They are quietly accumulating damage to their knees, their spine, their balance, their circulation, while feeling virtuous the entire time. In 15 years of practice, I have watched this play out more times than I can count. A patient sits across from me, frustrated, and says, "I don't understand it, doctor. I walk every day. I do everything right. So why does my knee ache? Why am I more tired, not less? Why do I feel like I'm going downhill?" And nearly every time, the answer is not in how much they walk. It is hidden in 7 small, almost invisible mistakes, habits so ordinary that nobody ever stops to question them. They are the kind of mistakes that produce no pain on day 1, no dramatic injury you could point to, nothing that would ever send you to a clinic. They work slowly, they work quietly, and by the time the knee aches, or the back tightens, or the energy drains away, the habit is so deeply worn into your routine that the last place you would think to look is the walk itself. Today, I am going to lay all 7 out for you, and I promise you, you are making at least 2 of them right now. Subscribe and hit that like button before we begin, because what follows is the difference between a walk that adds years to your life and one that slowly works against you. None of this requires a gym. None of it costs a penny. It requires only that you understand what is actually happening in your body when you step out the door. Let me start with why this matters so much more after 60 than it ever did at 40, because once you understand the body you are working with, every one of these mistakes will suddenly make sense. And I want to be clear about something. This is not the gloomy part. This is the empowering part, because almost every change I am about to describe responds directly and measurably to the way you move. When you cross into your 60s, several things are happening beneath the surface, all at once, all quietly. The first is the slow loss of muscle. There is a medical name for it, sarcopenia, which simply means the age-related thinning of muscle tissues, and it begins far earlier than most people realize and accelerates with each passing year. Think of it like a savings account that quietly drains a little each month if you never make a deposit. This matters enormously because muscle is not just for lifting things. Muscle is what stabilizes your knees and hips, holding the joint steady so the surfaces glide instead of grind. Muscle is what catches you when you stumble, the split-second reflex between a wobble and a fall. Muscle even helps manage your blood sugar, acting like a sponge that soaks glucose out of the bloodstream. As it fades, every joint and every step becomes a little less protected, and the only deposit that keeps the account full is using those muscles regularly the way they were built to be used. The second change is in your joints themselves. The cartilage that caps the ends of your bones, that smooth, glassy cushion, has no blood supply of its own. Think of it like a sponge that has to be squeezed to draw in fresh water. It feeds itself only through movement, by soaking up the lubricating fluid inside the joint each time you load it and release it. Move correctly and you nourish that cartilage, keeping it thick and elastic. Move carelessly or pound it the wrong way with poor mechanics, and you wear it down faster than it can repair. And unlike muscle, cartilage is painfully slow to rebuild once it is gone. This is the difference between a walk that feeds your knees and a walk that files them away a little each day. The third change is your balance. The tiny sensors in your inner ear, the feedback from the soles of your feet, the reflexes that fire to keep you upright, they all grow a fraction slower with age, and the brain leans more heavily on your eyes to make up the difference. This is why a fall at 70 is a completely different event than a fall at 30. A younger body usually bounces, an older one can fracture a wrist, a rib, or worst of all, a hip. And a hip fracture after 60 can change a life overnight. And the fourth change is in your circulation. The walls of your blood vessels grow a little stiffer, the muscular pump in your legs a little weaker, which is why so many people your age notice cold feet, heavy legs, or cramps that come on by evening. Now here's the beautiful part, and the whole reason this video exists. Walking, done correctly, works on all 4 of those systems at the same time. It builds and preserves muscle. It pumps lubricating fluid through your cartilage. It trains the balance reflexes that keep you on your feet. and it squeezes the veins of your legs with every stride, driving blood back toward the heart. There is almost no other single activity that does so much for so little cost. But, and this is everything, that full benefit only arrives when you walk well. Walk poorly, and you can turn the best medicine you own into a slow, daily dose of harm. Before I give you the first mistake, I want to ask you something, and I read every reply personally. Where in the world are you watching this from right now? A village in the UK, a town in the States, somewhere in Canada, the Philippines, somewhere I'd never guess. And how old are you? Drop your country and your age in the comments below. It genuinely shapes what I make next, because when I see most of you clustered in a certain age range, I build the following lesson around exactly where you are standing in life. So tell me, where are you watching from, and how old are you? Now let me introduce you to someone, because the 7 mistakes will land far harder once you meet a man who was making nearly all of them. I will call him Frank. He was 66, recently retired after a working life spent on his feet, and walking was his pride. 2, sometimes 3 miles, most days, rain or shine. He told me, almost defiantly, "I'm the fittest man on my street." And yet, he had come to see me because his right knee had begun to ache deep inside, his lower back grumbled by evening, and this was the part that frightened him. He had started feeling more tired after his walks, not less. He was convinced his body was simply giving out. "I suppose this is just 66, he said, with the flat resignation I hear far too often, as though age were a sentence rather than a stage of life. It was not. Frank's body was fine. Frank's technique was quietly sabotaging him in 7 specific ways, and he had no idea, because every one of those ways felt completely normal to him. Keep him in mind, because we will come back to him, and by the end you will understand exactly what we changed. Mistake number 1. You start at full speed. You step out the door and immediately set off at your normal brisk pace, because warming up feels like a waste of time when you could simply be walking. I understand the logic completely, but your body is not a switch you flip from off to on. After sitting or resting, your muscles are cool and far less elastic, like a rubber band left in the fridge. Stretch it suddenly and it is far more likely to tear, and what tears are not dramatic injuries but tiny microscopic strains that cause no pain on the day and quietly accumulate into the chronic aches people blame on age. Your joints, meanwhile, have not yet been bathed in their lubricating fluid. That protective film takes a few minutes of gentle movement to spread across the surfaces, and until it does, you are essentially running cartilage on cartilage with too little cushioning between them. And your heart, asked to leap from rest to effort, sends your pulse and pressure climbing more sharply than they need to, a needless jolt to vessels that are already a little stiffer than they once were. The fix costs you nothing and adds no time to your walk. The first 3 to 5 minutes, walk slowly. Deliberately, almost lazily slowly, the pace of someone strolling through a garden with nowhere to be. Let the engine warm before you ask it to work. By minute 5, your joints are lubricated, your muscles are pliable, your heart has found its rhythm, and now you may pick up the pace safely into the walk that actually does you good. Mistake number 2, you walk folded forward. Go and watch people walk and you will see it everywhere. Shoulders rounded down and in, head pushed out ahead of the body, eyes fixed on the ground a few feet in front. It looks harmless. It is anything but. Your head weighs around 11 pounds when it sits balanced over your spine, the weight of a decent bowling ball. But push it forward even an inch or two, and the load on the muscles of your neck and upper back multiplies several times over. Those muscles are now straining to hold a weight far heavier than they were designed to carry. Walk like that for half an hour, and you have effectively asked them to do continuous heavy lifting the entire time, which is precisely why so many people come home from a walk with an aching neck and shoulders and blame it on a draft or on the weather. Worse still, when your chest collapses forward, the dome-shaped muscle beneath your lungs, the diaphragm, your main breathing muscle, cannot draw down fully. Your lungs cannot expand. You breathe shallowly, taking in less oxygen than you should, and you arrive home feeling drained, never suspecting that the cause was the shape you held the whole way. Less oxygen means less fuel for your legs and your brain. You walked 30 minutes and feel as though you walked an hour. The fix. Imagine a fine thread fixed to the crown of your head, gently drawing you upward. Not stiff, not military, no need to throw your chest out like a soldier on parade. Simply tall, simply allowing the spine to lengthen. Shoulders relaxed and ease back into their natural place. Eyes lifted to the horizon, not the pavement. Chest open. In that posture, your lungs fill completely, and your neck carries only what it was built to carry. Let me pause and pull those first two together, because they pair so often. A cold start and a folded posture side by side are the most common way I see people turn a healthy walk into a sore one. Fix only those two, and many of you will feel a difference within a single week. Less stiffness, easier breathing, more left in the tank at the end. Mistake number 3. You are walking in shoes that died months ago. This is the one people pay the least attention to, and it may be the most quietly damaging of all. With age, two things happen to your feet. The natural fat pads on your soles, the body's own built-in shock absorbers, the cushions you were born with, grow thinner, so more of every impact travels up through the ankle, the knee, the hip, the spine, like a building with the rubber pads removed from its foundation. And the muscles and ligaments that hold the arch of your foot weaken, so the arch can begin to flatten, which subtly shifts the angle of every joint above it all the way up the chain. Good shoes can compensate for both. The trouble is that a shoe's cushioning dies long before the shoe looks worn out. The outside may appear perfectly fine, the tread intact, the upper clean, while the foam inside has compressed flat and lost its spring entirely. I have had patients insist their shoes were nearly new, then press the midsole and feel for themselves how hard and lifeless it had gone. If you walk regularly, that cushioning is spent in roughly a year. So this is not about fashion or expense. It is about replacing what is silently worn out beneath you. Press your thumb firmly into the midsole. If it feels hard and dead rather than springy and yielding, the shoe is finished, no matter how good it looks. This single, unglamorous habit, fresh, supportive, well-cushioned shoes, does more to protect your knees than almost anything else on this entire list. Mistake number 4. You are a weekend warrior. You are busy through the week, so you save it all up and take one long march on Saturday, an hour, maybe more, come home pleasantly exhausted, and consider your duty done for the week. From the body's point of view, this is almost exactly backward. Your body does not respond to heroic one-off efforts. It responds to repeated, consistent signals. Every walk sends a quiet message to your system. Movement is the norm here. Prepare for it. And in response, the heart gradually grows more efficient. The vessels adapt, the muscles strengthen, the metabolism stays awake and burning. This is called adaptation, and it only happens when the signal repeats often enough for the body to believe it. One walk a week is too faint a signal to trigger any of it. The body shrugs and returns to its resting state long before the next walk arrives. Worse, a single long effort after days of stillness is a genuine shock to unprepared muscles, which is why people so often ache for 2 days afterward and conclude, wrongly, that walking isn't for me, my joints can't take it. The walking was never the problem, the pattern was. The honest target, supported by decades of evidence, is 20 to 30 minutes on most days of the week, not one grand Sunday outing, but 5 or 6 modest repeated ones. Think of it like watering a plant. A little every day keeps it alive and growing, while a flood once a week drowns it and then leaves it parched. If that target feels far off, do not let it discourage you. Start with 3 days, even 10 minutes each, and add a little every couple of weeks. Your body rewards what repeats and only what repeats. Mistake number 5. Your arms are doing nothing. Most people walk with their arms pinned stiffly to their sides, hanging limp like rope, or tucked away in their pockets. It feels natural and comfortable. It also strips away a real share of walking's benefit and quietly disrupts the mechanics of the whole movement. Here is why. Walking is not a leg activity. It is a whole body cross-wired movement. When your left leg swings forward, your right arm is meant to swing with it, and the reverse, a pattern so deeply hardwired into your nervous system that you do it without a thought from the time you learned to walk as a child. That arm swing balances the twisting forces traveling through your trunk with every stride. Take the arms out of the equation and your lower back has to absorb that imbalance alone, twisting to compensate, step after step, hour after hour. And for anyone with an already tender lower back, that is a recipe for pain. Free the arms and something else happens too. The muscles of your shoulders, chest, and upper back join the effort. So far, more of your body is working, which means more circulation, more warmth in the limbs, and more benefit drawn from the very same distance. And there is a third gift, one that matters more with each passing year. A steady, rhythmic arm swing acts like a metronome for your stride, sharpening your coordination and steadying your gait, which directly helps guard against the loss of balance that creeps in with age. The fix could not be simpler. Bend your elbows to roughly a right angle and let them swing freely, naturally, opposite to your legs. You do not need the exaggerated pump of a competitive race walker. You only need to stop holding them still. Within a few walks it will feel automatic, and you will notice the rhythm carry you along. Now let me ask you the question I most want answered in the comments today, because your reply will quietly help a stranger who reads it after you. Of these 5 so far, the cold start, the folded posture, the dead shoes, the weekend pattern, the lifeless arms, which one did you just realize you have been doing all along? Be honest with yourself. Name the number in the comments below. You would be genuinely amazed how much it helps the next person scrolling through to see that someone else made the very same mistake and is fixing it. Mistake number 6, your eyes are glued to the ground. This one deserves real care, because there is a genuine and sensible reason people do it. After 60, the fear of falling is not irrational. It is a reasonable response to a body whose balance has changed. And so many of you look down at the path to spot every root, every curb, every uneven stone before it catches you. I understand that completely, and I would never tell you to ignore a hazardous trail. But here is the trap. Walking with your head bent down does 2 harmful things at once. First, it loads your neck exactly the way the folded posture does. All the strain we already discussed, sustained for the entire walk. And second, and far more surprisingly, it can actually make your balance worse, not better. The very opposite of what you are trying to achieve. Your sense of balance depends partly on your eyes locking onto the steady, level horizon as a fixed reference point, the way a tightrope walker fixes on a distant spot rather than staring at their feet. Bury your gaze in the pavement and you take that reference away, leaving your balance system with less information to work with, not more. The answer is not to stare at the ground, and it is certainly not to march along blindly. It is to walk with your eyes up on the horizon, scanning the path ahead in brief, relaxed glances rather than fixing rigidly on your feet in arrorae. This is the real lasting solution to the fear. To build your balance and your leg strength so that uneven ground stops being a threat in the first place. A few minutes a day of simple balance practice, standing on one foot beside a steady surface you can reach for, does more for your safety on the trail than a lifetime of looking down. And while we are here, the modern cousin of this mistake is walking with your eyes locked on a phone screen, which bends the neck even further and worse, takes your attention off the world entirely, robbing your brain of the spatial awareness that a walk is supposed to be training. Let a walk be a walk. Keep your eyes up, your horizon in view, and your phone in your pocket. Mistake number 7. You treat the walk as the whole job. You finish, you sit straight down, and you consider the work done. But the walk is only the first half of the work, the half that creates the demand. The benefit is locked in by what you do afterward, and almost nobody does it because nobody ever told them it mattered. Start with water. Your muscles are mostly water, and every process of repair and recovery inside them happens in that fluid environment. Even mild dehydration leaves them stiffer, slower to recover, and more prone to cramping. A single glass after your walk genuinely matters more than it sounds. Next, stretching. As you walk, your muscles work in a shortening pattern, contracting again and again with every stride, and without a gentle stretch afterward, they tend to stay a touch shortened. Over weeks and months, that quietly accumulates into tightness, stiffness, and a creeping loss of range of motion, felt most of all in the calves, the backs of the thighs, and the lower back, the very places people complain of as they age. 5 minutes of easy, unhurried stretching prevents nearly all of it. And finally, rest. Many people reason that if walking is good, then never stopping must be better, that a rest day is a day wasted. But here's the truth that surprises everyone. Your body does not grow stronger during the effort itself. It grows stronger during the recovery, in the quiet hours afterward when tissues rebuild and the heart and vessels remodel to handle what you asked of them. Skip recovery entirely, and that rebuilding never fully happens. 1 or 2 easier or rest days a week is not laziness. It is the very mechanism by which all your effort becomes permanent. Think of the whole thing as a single system. The walk, the water, the stretch, the rest. Only as a complete system does it deliver the lasting results you are walking for in the first place. So let me bring Frank back, because by now you can probably see him clearly, perhaps a little too clearly. Frank started every walk at full pace, straight out the door. He walked folded forward, eyes down, watching for cracks in the pavement out of an honest, understandable fear of falling. His shoes were 3 years old and looked, in his words, perfectly fine, until he pressed the midsole and felt how dead they had gone. He walked hard 4 days one week and then nothing the next, riding the all-or-nothing swing. His arms barely moved, pinned to his sides like a man carrying invisible buckets. And he had never once, in all his years of walking, stretched or rested on purpose. Frank was not unfit. Frank was running excellent equipment on a faulty manual, and every single thing that ached was the predictable result. We changed almost nothing about how far he walked. We changed how. 5 slow minutes to begin every walk, no exceptions. A thread lifting the crown of his head, shoulders eased back, eyes up on the horizon, and 10 minutes a day of simple balance work beside his kitchen counter, so the fear of falling slowly loosened its grip and he stopped staring at his feet. New shoes, and he was genuinely shocked at how alive and cushioned they felt once he finally had something fresh to compare the old ones to. A steady 5 days a week instead of his exhausting all-or-nothing pattern. Arms swinging freely, a glass of water, and a brief stretch at the end of each walk, and one real rest day built into the week. And because pain always deserves a proper look, I also sent him to have that knee examined rather than guessing at it, because assuming is never the same as checking, and your own doctor is the only one who knows your full history. Within a few weeks, the deep ache in his knee had eased, his back stopped grumbling by evening, and the fatigue that had so frightened him had quietly reversed into the very energy he had been chasing all along. Same walks, same man, completely different result. Let me give you your plan. 5 steps, simple enough to begin on your very next walk, and easy enough to remember without writing them down. Step 1. Walk the first 3 to 5 minutes slowly, every single time, without exception. This adds no time to your day. You are simply starting gentler, and it readies your joints, your muscles, and your heart for the work ahead. Step 2. Reset your posture before you set off. Lift the crown of your head as if drawn up by a thread, ease your shoulders back into place, raise your eyes to the horizon, and open your chest. Then burn that feeling into your memory so you can return to it the instant you notice yourself folding forward mid-walk. Step 3. Inspect your shoes today before you forget. Press your thumb firmly into the midsole and look honestly at the wear. If the cushioning feels hard and spent, or you have been walking in them daily for a year or more, it is time to replace them. It is one of the highest value, lowest effort things you can do for your joints. Step 4. Trade the one big walk for many small ones. Aim for 20 to 30 minutes on most days of the week. If that feels like too much right now, begin with 3 days even briefly, and add a day every couple of weeks until it becomes simply what you do. Let your arms swing freely the whole time and keep your eyes up on the horizon. Step 5. Treat the finish as part of the walk, not the end of it. A glass of water, 5 minutes of gentle stretching for your calves, your thighs, and your lower back, and 1 or 2 easier days each week so your body can lock in everything the walking has built. One honest word before I let you go, because your safety matters more to me than any habit on this list. If you live with a heart condition, joint problems, or any persistent pain, talk to your own doctor before changing your routine, and never walk through pain in the hope that it will simply pass on its own. Pain is information, a message from your body, and it deserves a proper examination rather than a guess. Nothing I have said here replaces the person who knows your medical history. It is meant only to make the time you already spend walking work for you instead of slowly against you. Here's the truth I want you to carry out the door with you. Walking is one of the kindest, most powerful gifts you can give an aging body, but only when you respect how that body has changed and meet it where it is. The difference between a walk that heals and a walk that harms is not distance, and it is not willpower, and it is certainly not age. It is 7 small, almost invisible habits, every one of them fully within your control, and not one of them ever explained in the few rushed minutes of an ordinary appointment, not out of any conspiracy, but simply because there has never been time. Now you know all 7. The next time you step outside, you will not be walking like someone hoping for the best. You will be walking like someone who finally understands the instrument they are playing. If even one of these 7 landed for you today, do me a small favor, and a real one for someone you love. Hit the like button so this reaches another person over 60 who is walking faithfully every day and quietly wondering why it just isn't working. Subscribe so the next lesson finds you when it is ready. And tell me one last time in the comments, where are you watching from, and which of the 7 mistakes were you making all along without ever knowing it? Every single answer helps the next person who reads it understand they are not alone. Now go for a walk, the right way this time.